Blessed be everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're talking tarot, and I thought I'd go through some questions, common questions that people ask about the major and minor arcana, or the differences between the two. And sometimes this can get a little bit confusing, especially for new tarot readers. So we're going to do that. But before we do, I am Sandra from MysteryWitchSchool.com, author of Crafting Your Wiccan Path. If you want to know more about Wicca, witchcraft, tarot, shadow work and magic, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss any videos. If you want to know how to read the tarot with ease, I have a free training video which is called How to Read the Tarot with Ease. There's a link in the description field below this video. So what are the differences between the major and minor arcana? Tarot is made up of 78 cards. And you could divide those cards into major arcana cards and minor arcana cards, although the minor arcana are really from the 1s through to the 10s in the 4 suits, and the court cards are the pages, the knights, the queens and the kings, but they're kind of included in the minor arcana. The major arcana cards are those 22 cards that have usually images of people or beings on them that are more archetypal. Like you have the Emperor, you have the High Priestess, you have the Fool, those cards. So there's a difference between the purpose of those cards and the minor arcana cards. Now in the card game Taroki, which was the game that was played hundreds of years ago and probably still is played today, it's very much a game similar to the game 500. The major arcana cards were the trump cards, and so they had a different function again to the minor cards as well in the game. But when the tarot became aligned with magical practices, they took on an archetypal significance, and they probably always had that. A lot of people say that the esoteric knowledge, the great knowledge, was hidden in the cards, and that's quite possible that it was. When these things become taboo, then they often do go underground and hide in plain sight, such as a card game, for example. But the modern tarot that we have now is divided into major and minor arcana. So the differences between the major and minor arcana are mostly that the major arcana cards are more archetypal. So you're looking at archetypes that have deep psychological significance and can also have deep spiritual significance, often linked to more karmic things, things you're working on in this life, significant moments in your life where you can dive deep into the mysteries and the meaning of your life at this point in time. Now, the major arcana can also indicate mundane events, and in more old-fashioned forms of fortune-telling, they were. But when you're looking at them from a more of an esoteric point of view and a more of a mystical point of view, their depth is more to do with the profound spiritual truths that you might come across. They've got the symbolism in them is quite profound. There's more symbolism in the major arcana cards in like the older decks, particularly the Waite-Smith deck, than there is in the minor arcana cards. And all of these symbols have a strong esoteric significance, occult significance, and they have deep meaning. So these cards can really help you understand you, the depth, the shadow aspects of yourself, the divine reasons for you being here aspects of yourself. So they have that depth. Whereas the minor arcana cards are more about everyday life. The things that you encounter on a more mundane level, such as working and money, education, thinking, conflicts, love and romance, family, creating things, careers, building things, and partying, that kind of thing. So they're really about the everyday stuff. And that doesn't mean that they don't have, important meaning in our lives. All of these things do. It's just that they're not the deeper layers of these things. They're more on the surface of everyday life. The themes and the meanings differ, of course, as a result of that. When you look at the Minor Arcana cards, it's usually people doing things, doing stuff. Like there's, in Cups, for example, it's about relating and relationships. With Pentacles, it's about making things and building things and accumulating stuff. With the Wands suit, it is more inspirational, doing, action. And the Swords is often about conflict. And you can sort of see these themes come up more in daily life, whereas the Major Arcana cards, you have like the High Priestess with a more mystical scroll, and there's a veil in the background. So there's a lot more, I guess you could say, metaphor going on in the Major Arcana cards than, say, in the Minor Arcana cards. So you have to be quite an abstract thinker to really relate to the Major Arcana cards, because they're very abstract. They're not concrete cards like the Minor Arcana cards are more on a concrete level. The Major Arcana cards are more on an abstract level, so they can be difficult for more concrete thinkers to connect with and relate to. Some of the questions around the cards are things like, what are the themes and how themes and meanings and how they differ. So I've just explained that. There's questions, are there times when the majors are more relevant than the Minor Arcana cards? So yes, there would be. If you're going through a major life transition, then there's probably going to be more Major Arcana cards than, well, a significant amount of Major Arcana cards in the reading. At least there'll be a couple of them, maybe 2 or 3, depending on what type of reading you're doing. Because you're going through a transitional phase on a psycho-spiritual level, and it may even be a karmic transition that you're going through, in which case the Major Arcana cards are going to come up, rather than things that are more on a mundane level, which would be significantly more Minor Arcana cards. And if you have a reading that's all just Minor Arcana cards, then you've got a pretty mundane everyday reading. That's really just about everyday stuff. It's not addressing anything on a deeper layer of meaning, which is fine. It really just depends on what's going on in your life and what you're asking the cards for. The question you ask the cards is also going to determine whether the reading is going to be more of an in-depth reading about you and where you are at the moment, psychologically, spiritually. It's going to, if that's sort of the question you're asking, you probably are going to get more major cards than minor cards. It really depends on how the question is asked. The symbols, one of the symbols, and here the depth. How do they stand out? So with regards to the symbols in the tarot, you'll find that the Major Arcana cards, again, it's abstract. You've got references sometimes to esoteric knowledge that you might not have knowledge of. Like you might not know that in the Waite-Smith deck, in the World card, you've got the 4 evangelists there, for example, unless you happen to know more about that side of things. So a lot of the symbols in the Major Arcana cards, going back more to the Waite-Smith deck, can be very daunting and almost frightening to some people because they can't relate to the symbols. You know, what are the keys that are crossed? The symbol of the devil symbol, for example, what's all that about? Again, the High Priestess, what's the scroll all about? What's sitting on a throne all about? What's the veil all about? All of these things are abstract, and so you have to do a little bit of hunting into mythology and symbols and meanings, and what do these meanings have in these various different places in order to understand what the Major Arcana cards mean. Whereas if you look at the Minor Arcana cards, they're people doing stuff, and it's pretty obvious that when you've got, say, the 8 of Pentacles, for example, and the figure is there hammering away on a pentacle, you can assume, okay, this person looks like they're working away at something. They're making pentacles, if you want to look at it really concretely. And you can tell they're making something, they're doing something. When you see the 4 of Wands and you've got the couple there looking like they're celebrating, and you've got the wands there with the the flowers above, and there's people who seem to be dancing in the background, you can see that that's a card of celebration. So it's more obvious what the Minor Arcana cards are compared to the Major Arcana cards. I'm looking down here at my board to see what other things I need to cover here so I don't forget. So some tips for reading the Major and Minor Arcana cards, or to learn how to really connect to them. Your Minor Arcana cards you're probably going to be okay with. You probably don't need to do a lot of work to understand them. But the Major Arcana cards, definitely meditate on them. Do meditation. In my course, The Confident Tarot Reader, I have a meditation right at the very beginning. It's actually in the bonus course that comes with it called Learn the Tarot with Ease. And it's a meditation, and you can use that meditation with any of the cards, and it just takes you into the card in various different ways so that you can experience the card for yourself. You can experience the symbols and feel into what they might mean to you. That kind of thing. So definitely meditate on the Major Arcana cards. And when you're looking at the cards, what do you feel when you look at them? What do you feel when you look at the High Priestess card? What does it feel like? The conscious mind might be getting confused because she's not an easy card to understand. But you'll have a feeling about her. So what's the feeling? Sometimes these feelings are hard to put into words too. But what's the feeling when you look at the High Priestess card? What's the feeling when you look at the Magician card? What do you feel? And work with that, because the cards are designed to work on your emotions and work on your feelings and your intuition. Learn the meanings of the cards. It is helpful to learn the meanings of the cards. Remember that the Major Arcana is to do with the deeper themes, to do with things that are bigger and broader and archetypal, the big stuff. Whereas the Minor Arcana is more the practical content and advice. So the Major Arcana can bring you to see a major life situation or event or something you're experiencing. And then the Minor Arcana cards can sort of explain where that might be happening in your life. It might be happening in relationships. It might be happening in finance, for example, how that's playing out. And the Minor Arcana cards can give you then advice about how you might be able to orchestrate that or navigate your way through this time. So you could work with it that way, that you see the Major Arcana cards, you see that there's quite a few of them in a spread. You know that this is something more deep than just a mundane everyday thing, and that there could be a life lesson here that you can learn. What are the Minor Arcana cards saying, and what advice are they giving? The Major Arcana cards can give advice as well, but it will always be on a much more profound and deeper way. So that's my take on the differences between the Major and Minor Arcana. If you do want to become a Confident Tarot Reader, the Confident Tarot Reader course is there for you. There's a link in the description field below this video for how you can enroll in that course. If you like the video, hit the like button, share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Sandra from mysterywitchschool.com. Blessed be.